So hi, I'm Neil Hermes and welcome to my weekly bird wrap, and this is episode 4. Today I've got 3 stories for you, a couple from the US and one from Australia. The one from Australia is about birds drinking alcohol, and the 2 stories from the US, one is about an amazing woman that's done a fabulous, had a fabulous success in seeing 726 bird species in America in a year, and the other story is about how iridescence occurs in bird feathers. Hi, I'm Neil Hermes and welcome to my weekly bird wrap. And I've got some noisy miners introducing the story with me today in the trees above, which is great. And in fact, the first story I have is from Australia, and it's about birds getting boozed on alcoholic fruit. Sadly, at this time of the year in Australia, in the northern parts, in Kimberley, in the tropics around Darwin, at various times tropical fruits fall to the ground and they ferment. And different species of birds can pick up this fermenting fruit and they can get affected by the alcohol. And there was a report in the papers just in the last couple of weeks of red-winged parrots in the Kimberleys being found wandering around the streets of Broome, having eaten mango fruit that had fallen to the ground and had high levels of alcohol in it. And this is, it's sort of a slightly amusing story, but it's a serious story too, because of course the birds become very vulnerable when they're in such a state. They can be run over on the roads, they can be taken by cats or dogs, they get disoriented, they can fly into things, fly into windows, so it's a very dangerous thing for birds to have this effect. Happily, if people find these birds and they put them in a quiet place, the birds usually will get over their condition. Sometimes they may need veterinary help to survive because they've eaten too much of the alcohol with the fruit. So not only do the red-winged parrots in the Kimberleys have this propensity to eat fruit that has alcohol in it, but lorikeets in Darwin have been reported with a similar condition. So if you happen to be watching this wrap and you're from those parts of the world, or in any tropical place where there's fruits that get an alcoholic content when they fall on the ground, just be aware that sometimes birds will get an effect and they just need to be taken into care whilst they get over the effects of the alcohol. My second story this week comes from Princeton University research, and it's about how birds have such amazing iridescent colours. Now, you may have noticed when you look at pictures of some species of birds, like say peacocks when they've got their tails up and showing, or some species of hummingbirds, that not only does the bird have a particular colour, but in certain light there's an iridescence in the feathers as well. Now, this iridescence is not a colour pigment. Birds have colour pigments that create the reds and the greens and the various colours, and that's embedded in the feathers, and the feathers will always be that colour. The iridescence is actually created by tiny structures in the feathers, and the research at Princeton has shown that these structures physically turn the light around, and there are layers and layers of these structures called melanostomes, which will actually create different colours. And in fact, birds can have potentially double the numbers of colour effects by having these particular structures inside the feathers reflecting the light. It's called structural colour as opposed to pigment colour. And this research in Princeton has been amazing. And one of the outcomes of this sort of research, of course, is now we're understanding how iridescence works. It's possible at this nano scale that we humans will be able to use this technology in various practical forms in things that we might design in the future. So there's a practical result of this sort of research of us understanding why hummingbirds, peacocks, crested pigeons, many species of ducks have iridescence and how they can produce so many different colours of iridescence. My last story for this week also comes from the United States, and it's about a fabulous woman who has last year recorded the most number of birds in a year on record. And so her name is Tiffany Kirsten, and she bases herself down in the Rio Grande Valley in southern USA. She decided to do a big year, and in birding terms, that's setting herself a task to see how many birds you can see in a particular area, it might be a state, a country in the world, in a year. And it's a huge challenge because you can see obviously lots of common birds very quickly, but to get up to the higher numbers, it really does take a lot of effort. Now in the United States, in the lower 48 states, 700 species in a year is a pretty good result. Now, Tiffany was able to get to 700 by the end of the beginning of last October. So she still had another 3 months, and 700 had been her target. So she had another 3 months to try and see if she could break the all-time record in the United States for seeing the most number of species in a year. And she cracked it. She got to 726. Her final bird was the bat hawk, first record of the bat hawk in the United States ever. It's a species of a hawk that occurs in South America and Mexico. As you might imagine from its name, it's a small hawk that eats bats. So it tends to live and move about in the early evenings and early mornings. But Tiffany was able to see this bat hawk close to where she lives in the Rio Grande and get to 726 species for the year. The first person to get that and the first woman to get that, and that's an amazing achievement for her. So hats off to Tiffany for her amazing efforts. And I noticed that she actually has a bird watching company, and so she's available to be a guide. So if you're looking for a great guide in the US who really knows how to find her birds, I'll be checking out Tiffany's website, which you can find on my website after this. Now, don't forget, if you want to see other clips from my YouTube channel from previous episodes, have a look online. Check out my website for other information about birds and some tips on how to go bird watching. And don't forget, I also do trips myself to various parts of Australia and the South Pacific. So check out that on the website at neilhermes.com.au. And happy birding.